Hi, I'm Greg Yellen with Reynolds & Reynolds, and this is Connected. Today is our 150th episode. We've come quite a ways in the last 4.5 years. Really excited about this one. I get to talk to Richard Greene. Richard is the Fixed Operations Director at Parker Auto Group in Little Rock, Arkansas, or outside of Little Rock. Richard, thanks so much for joining me.
Sure. Happy to be here.
Richard, yeah, no, it's great to have you. I want to get into a lot of pieces to this puzzle around technicians and recruiting and training. You have a big hand in that in the local area there. But first, I spent a little time, and I do mean a little time in Little Rock. It was in 2020. So a little bit of a funny story. My wife and I, every 5 years on our anniversary, we like to take a little bit bigger of a trip, right? And so we had this trip planned. We were going to go, down to the Caribbean, and it was going to be great. It was our 10-year anniversary. We were really excited. And then COVID happened, obviously, in 2020, and our anniversary is in August. So, and in August of 2020, if you think back, I mean, that was right in the heart of it. Everything was shut down. It was really just a scary kind of time. So anyhow, we weren't able to go to the Caribbean. And so we started looking, and my wife actually found this beautiful property just outside of Little Rock. It was in Maumelle, actually, overlooked, it was right on the river, overlooked Pinnacle Mountain. And so we ended up coming there and spent a few days in Little Rock, and it was beautiful. I loved Little Rock. I thought it was a great city. We spent a little time downtown, a little time on the river. We climbed the mountain over there. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I'll tell you, anybody who hasn't been to Little Rock, I would put it on the list. I think it's a great place. I don't know. Are you from there originally?
No, actually, I was born, raised, and grew up north of Dallas.
Okay. All right. So you headed north a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Got family from here, though. And so I guess in 2001, we had an opportunity to come here and run the Lexus dealership. So took advantage of that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, if you don't mind, maybe share your background a little bit then. So, from Dallas, presumably got into the car business there, and then, kind of what's your path been like? Because you're running 3, Highline stores in the Little Rock area from a fixed ops perspective.
So, when I was in college, a friend of my dad's was a technician at Sewell Village Cadillac on Lemon Avenue in Dallas. And my junior and senior year, I would go to work for him. Well, when I graduated from college, I was making more money working the summers than what I could in my degree field. And so it just sort of sucked me in, and I went to work full time there July 5th, 1987. So now I'm telling myself. And, just worked my way up. I mean, had short-term goals, had long-term goals. Worked my way up. I mean, started out on the lube rack, So there's nothing that these guys are doing that I haven't done and been there. And I think that makes a big difference,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. When you can, and you can probably still get your hands dirty if you need to, right? You need to change your clothes probably. But if you needed to get out there, I'm sure you could.
Sometimes they still have problem cars, and they'll find me and say, hey, we need you to look at this and see what you think and stuff. So, yeah. That's
awesome. I love it. Well, so Richard, wanted to talk about, and it's interesting, your background there, where you started working in a store, as a lube tech while you were still in school, because that was part of what I was hoping to talk about today too, is your involvement and the dealership's involvement in some of these programs in and around the Little Rock area that are helping young people, right, students, get into the automotive technician industry and move them into that world. So maybe you can start just setting the stage a little bit around, why, and I want to get into the details too, but why do you feel like this is important? Because I think it is. I think opening it, especially young people's eyes to the opportunities that are in our industry that they may or may not know about, is so important, because they are great opportunities that we offer. So I don't know, what drives you to kind of get involved at this early stage in people's lives to make them aware of these things?
So I'll tell you what drove us that direction is, a lot of dealers, their mindset is, I need to hire a technician that's got experience, right? And what happens is, these technicians that have experience that you're hiring, all they're doing is chasing a flat rate. So they may come to work for you for 3 years, and somebody else offers them more per flat rate hour. And boy, they're going to jump. They'll jump over $1 or $2 a flat rate hour. So several years ago, we sort of took a step back and we realized that there's a great opportunity with these young kids. Our first partnership was with UACCM in Morrilton. They have a 2-year automotive program. They also run, it's called the River Valley area, and they also run all of the high school kids' boat tech program through this same program. So we started out there just as a partnership with them, and came and got more involved, got on the advisory board, got to where we were going to speak to the kids. And then it got to a point where these kids started coming and interning with us during the summer. Well, when they would come and intern with us during the summer, if it was a great fit, we would offer them a scholarship for their second year. We would pay for all of their school for the second year.
Wow.
We felt like because these kids, they get a tool allowance and a tool program going through these 2-year programs. So we felt like paying for their tuition, that second year, which, I mean, it comes to close to 10 grand,
Wow.
for that second year for tuition. And then we have them sign just a promissory note that they'll come to work for us for a certain period of time after they graduate. And what we found is when we get these kids in here, these kids, I mean, they're scared to death of a flat rate, right? And so, we kept having a lot of turnover because, and I'll be the first one to admit, I was the person that would bring the kid in, stick him in the quick service, doing oil changes and tire rotations. And then we would see, okay, are they going to make it or not? And you'd go through 5 before you'd find one that was even going to stick. So we kept having this turnover and sort of looked at it and thought, we need to do something where when these kids are transitioning into the dealership, we can mentor these kids and have like an apprentice program for them. And so we started that program probably about 6 years ago. And we have another partner, which is Haas Consulting. And he does service performance groups and he does in dealership consulting and stuff. And so with his help and with us looking at the way things were, man, we've developed this apprentice program that's it's over the top. And since we've been doing it, the defection rate on these kids is less than 10%.
Wow. That's great. So when you say apprentice program, right, and obviously you've spent, just based on that, you've spent a considerable amount of time thinking through it and developing it. What are the core tenets of the apprenticeship program? So you have these partnerships with schools, and then you'll keep these young techs on board, and then to really combat the early turnover, it sounds like that's where your apprenticeship program is coming into play. So what all does that entail? Do you line them up 1-to-1 with a more senior tech? Is it a group setting? Like, who are they partnered with? Are they working with the service manager, with yourself? Like, what are the core tenets? What's the structure of the program that you've developed?
So what we developed is we came up with an apprentice technician workbook. Okay. And it basically they have to do 60 oil changes. They have to do 60 rotates and balances. It's a multitude of things. They have to keep up with their online course training. So there's a lot of different things, and I'd be happy to share the book with anybody. And so what we found is these kids, we've got to give them a career path, right? So many times we would just bring them in the store and are they going to make it or not? Well, we wouldn't offer them a career path. We wouldn't tell them, okay, what's that next step? Here's what you need to work towards. So as part of the apprentice program, the service manager, their mentor, and the shop foreman sit down with these apprentices every 90 days and do an evaluation. The way the mentor program works, and it's sort of unique because we've actually been able to solve another problem just by creating this mentorship program. So what happens is when the apprentices come in, they get put with a master tech. They get matched with a master tech.
Yep.
Okay. We actually have an alternative pay plan that we have come up with where the dealer is able to maintain their same gross profit percentage and their same effective labor rate. So it doesn't cost the dealer like it does when you bring them in and pay them an hourly wage, right? When you put them with this mentor, and just to give you an example, let's say that, we brought you in as an apprentice, and we're going to pay you $10 an hour, clock hour to start with, and you work 90 hours of pay period. That's $900. Okay. So when I put you with that mentor, if my effective labor rate's $90 an hour, let's say, for simple math, I put you with that mentor, I'm going to tell that mentor, okay, the first 10 hours that you flag is mine. Anything over 10 hours, you're going to get $10 for every flat rate hour he runs. So what happens there is now I've got these master techs that are mentoring these kids, and I've got master techs that with their apprentice pay, they're making almost $60 a flat rate hour.
Yeah.
Now, you really think somebody's going to want to leave and go someplace else when we're able to do that with this mentor program? Right. So it's actually solved two problems for us, because now we've got the master techs are engaged. They're helping bring the kids up. We've got the kids engaged because we're slowly working them into a flat rate. And we've got an apprentice pay plan that slowly works them into a flat rate as well, where it's part hourly and then part a flat rate. And so when we calculate all of that, we're able to maintain the same gross and same effective labor rate. Again, I'll be happy to share it with anybody that's interested in seeing it. So it's really worked out great. And these kids get to the point where if that service manager hadn't come to them at that 90-day period, they'll come to the service manager or go to their mentor and say, hey, it's been 90 days. When are we going to sit down? Because you know what? If they've done a great job, we're going to bump them pay-wise. And so this goes on for a year. So the first year, they're sitting down with their mentor, the shop foreman, and the service manager every 90 days for the first year.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so I love the way that you structured it. I think that makes a lot of sense in a way that's valuable for everybody involved, right? It's valuable for the dealer, it's valuable for the master tech, and it's valuable for the apprentice. So I like the way you structured it. But I want to underscore, because I think something you said in there that I think is really important, certainly when it comes to retention in this first year, is got to be the communication, right? So you set the table for the apprentice, the young technician that's coming in, and you let them know what the expectations are right up front, right? You communicate that, and then you communicate it quarterly. Every 90 days, you said, where you're kind of reinforcing the expectations that you set up front. So when they're thinking about, I think, which was what your point was, when they're thinking about their career path and their opportunities going forward, they have a clear picture of what that is, right? And they understand that. And it's, yes, I'm making $10 an hour right now, and that's great, but I know that I'm doing this because after 12 months, as long as I'm doing a good job, there's going to be a much larger opportunity for me when that door opens. So and then presumably, I'm sure that you do, which is why you have such great retention. You follow through on that, right? Once they are through the program, then you deliver, right? And you hold up your end as well.
Yeah. So the service managers, every time they meet with one of the apprentices, we've got a form that they fill out, and they send me that form, and that way I'm able to keep, everybody in check and make everybody accountable as well. But backing up a little bit, I mean, the dealers have to be involved in this. They can't just go to one of these VOTEC schools and say, hey, I'm interested in somebody, send them my way. You've got to be involved. You've got to be on, you just have to be involved in what's going on. We last year, the service managers towards the end of the school year, they called one of the instructors and said, hey, we want to buy pizza for everybody. So, I mean, we just, we went in, it cost us, $150 to buy pizza for everybody. We went in and bought pizza, and you know what? Now those kids are like, hey, that's pretty cool. When I graduate, I know who I'm going to be talking to, so, and it all starts there, and it all starts with the counselors directing these kids. I don't know if you've read any of the reports lately about how kids are going towards the trades instead of going to the four-year colleges right now. There's a higher percentage right now that are going to the trades instead of going to four-year colleges just because of the environments of some of the four-year colleges, And so this is a real opportunity, and it starts with the high school counselors. So we meet with the high school counselors once a year for the area that these schools pull from, right? We're involved in trade expos. So a couple of times, 3 times a year, we do trade expos. The schools will have an open day where they'll bus the kids in from the high schools to see if they're interested. We attend those, so you've got, as hard as it is to make time sometimes, you've got to make time to do this. And I think one of the things that we do a terrible job of in the automotive industry is letting people know what the earning potential is.
Sure.
Right? I mean, when you talk to these people, they have no idea what the earning potential is. And then when these kids come in within 5 years, they can be making over 6 figures.
Yep.
And that's big. That's huge.
Well, yeah.
And they just don't know that.
Right. So, Richard, let me ask you, who's responsible for managing all of the logistics of this program? Is that your responsibility? Do you have someone else, or do you have a team of people that help manage it? Because you just went through a bunch of things, right? You went through structure, you went through follow-up, you went through accountability, you went through communication, you went through really recruiting, right? Starting with high school counselors. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and you're right. It is very important. You have to make time for it, but somebody has to own it. So my question, I guess, is: do you own this, or do you have like a program manager that owns it, or is it collective ownership across your leadership team?
This is pretty close to me because I'm the one that put it all together and started it and everything. Yeah. So, I take ownership. Someone told me a long time ago, you have to inspect what you expect. Yeah. And so that's what it is. I've just got reminders on my Outlook that say, hey, you need to get a hold of, the Cadillac service manager. Has he done this? It's coming up time for the trade expo. Have we enrolled in it? It's just inspect what you expect. And then that's the way it is. Yeah,
no, that's great. That's great. But, I think that's a great way to approach it, and a great lesson. I mean, if you want it done, you need to make sure that it's on your calendar. So that's good. So can we talk a little bit too, Richard, about the partnership and the relationship with? So obviously you have these relationships with high school counselors. You have relationships with the trade schools, but also, at least for a couple of your manufacturers, with the OEM, right? With the manufacturers. So you look at Toyota and Lexus, and you have the Tex Elite program. Right, with Toyota, You look at GM, so you have a Cadillac store. You look at GM, you have the STEP program there. How do they play in to all of this for you as well?
So with UACCM, we first started with actually the Audi program. So these kids can go through the 2-year associates program, and they can get all of their online Audi training and become Audi certified before they ever step in the dealership. So we got with Audi, and Audi provides them, logins and stuff like that to be able to get in to their system and do this. So it started with Audi first, then it started with GM, and GM has what's called a STEP program, which is very similar to the ASEP program. They'll provide the dealers with online, online test, online classes. I mean, everything for these kids. And they'll even, at some point, they'll even offer them, scan tools. They'll offer them, cars, parts. We've been able to get with our warranty, and they will let us and our service rep, and we can take some of the stuff that was warranted and actually get permission to take it to the school for them to use as well. So that's been a great partnership. Now, just in the last year with ASU, we were able to bring the Lexus and Toyota Techs Elite program. And so with that partnership, they've actually already gotten 2 cars. They get scan tools. The instructors get training. And it's really nice. It's a really nice program. And so we're able to bring these kids in and offer them different paths for the manufacturers that we represent.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever path they want to. Through the ASU program, the instructors have actually come this summer to the Lexus dealership, and they've actually spent several days at the Lexus dealership with technicians and with the shop foreman, just seeing how everything works. So they're very involved. ASU is very involved with the Toyota and Lexus program.
That's great. That's great. And so it sounds like, with the manufacturers that you represent, they have some skin in the game too, right? They're really bringing some investment to the table to help develop these young technicians as well.
Yeah.
That's good.
They sure are.
So wanted to, on that similar vein, wanted to shift gears a little bit into, manufacturers and a lot of the programs that they come up with to help with standardization of sort of the customer experience, right? And we see them on the front end of the store. We see them on the back end of the store. Toyota and Lexus have been, I think, doing a really strong job with Toyota SmartPath and Lexus Monogram. And you're a Monogram dealer. So talk a little bit about, if you don't mind, your view on kind of how that partnership works. Because some of them work, some of them don't. We've seen it over, decades where some of it feels like a little bit of overreach. Sometimes they're balanced right. Sometimes it's not enough, so they don't get paid attention to. I don't know. What's been your experience? And share a little of your perspective on these OEM types of programs.
So with the Lexus Monogram and Toyota SmartPath programs, Lexus reached out to us when they first started the service Monogram. Reynolds wasn't even ready to have a pilot dealer yet, and they wanted us to pilot that program. We started texting customers back in 2013 and started shooting videos in 2017. So we had been doing it for a really long time. And Lexus could see the lift that we got in CPROs just by taking the videos and doing that. So when Lexus looked at doing Monogram, they actually came out and spent time at our dealership. And so that was sort of the foundation that built Monogram and SmartPath. And then when they got to the point where Reynolds was ready to do the pilot, they called me and they said, "Hey, Reynolds is ready. Let's get going on it." So on December 4th, Reynolds and Lexus came out and we kicked off Monogram. So, what this does is this has done several things. And I wish we had like a video to watch of one of the technicians, shooting a video when he's doing the multi-point inspection on the car. Number one, the guest is, even if they don't need anything on their car, they're seeing a video so that they know, okay, this is where the brakes are. This is where the oil pan is. Some of them, it's the very first time they've ever seen the underneath of their car,
Sure.
Never seen it before. So we started off that way. That way, when there is a need, they've seen it previously. And it also, the biggest thing it does, it offers transparency. I mean, how many times do dealers get accused of recommending something that somebody else says, well, you didn't need to do that? Well, you know what? Now we've got that transparency.
Yeah.
So we got videos, we're showing them. So
Yeah.
we're showing them the failed part. We're showing them the new part that's been put on the vehicle. The Reynolds monogram has expedited the service experience and enhanced the service experience for that guest. And it's also made it easier for the service advisors as well. I'm not going to say that we got it perfect yet, because we don't. We're still working through some stuff. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Chris Hellier yesterday about an issue that we've got with the online scheduling. So it's a work in process, it's a work in process, but we'll get there. And it's all about enhancing that customer's experience is what it's about. But the technicians have gotten to the point where when they shoot these videos, some of them are getting pretty, artistic and pretty dramatic when they're shooting these videos. So they're really taking ownership. They're really getting engaged in shooting the videos. Somebody asked me one time, how much do you pay your technicians to shoot a video? And I said, well, we don't pay the technicians to shoot a video. Well, how did you ever get them to do it? And I said, well, I showed them where their items per RO and their hours per RO increased when they did a video versus when they don't do a video. So they don't have to pull as many cars in their stall to make more money when they shoot a video.
So can we double click on that a little bit? Because I think that there can be at least a mindset for a technician. Look, my job's to fix the car. I find the work, sure, I fix the car. The advisor's job is to sell the work. So why do I need to sell the work, right? Because that's really what we're in a lot of ways asking them to do, right? Take a video, explain the problem, articulate it in a way that allows the customer to trust them and want to do the repair. So in some ways it could be, and I think it is in different pockets, perceived that the technician's being asked to do more, being asked to do, even part of someone else's job. So how do you, it's interesting. Did you have any struggles? Because the way you said it, it was like, well, we just told them they'll get more stuff, right? And that is true, and I want to get into that too. But it seems like, and I've heard certainly in different pockets that there is a lot of resistance and a lot of frustration because it's like, I just want to work on the car.
Yeah. We had pushback in the very beginning. We had some techs that they didn't see the benefit in it, didn't understand why they needed to do it. So funny story. So when we started getting that pushback in the very beginning, I would walk out in the shop and I would have a stack of $20 bills, and I'd walk up to a technician and I'd say, "Did you take a video today?" And they'd say, "Yes, sir. Took a video today." Said, "Thank you very much." And I'd hand him $20. I'd go to the next guy, ask him, "Yes, sir. Shot a video." Hand him $20. The other guy would come up and he'd say, "Well, I didn't know you were going to be paying people today to shoot videos. I don't ever know what I'm going to do." So you have to get the guys to buy in on it. There's no doubt that you're going to get kickback from it, but they're already doing recommendations on the vehicle. They're doing a multi-point inspection. They're doing recommendations. If a car comes in with an issue, they're making up the repair estimate on the vehicle. Monogram makes it so simple with when they click on that yellow tires on the multi-point inspection. Monogram calculates the price right there. They don't have to go to parts. They don't have to do anything. Same thing on a repair. So in essence, we've taken that time that they would spend at the parts counter and we've exchanged that for them shooting a video. Is one of the ways to explain it. The other thing that we saw too is you'd have someone that would be just totally resistant to shooting videos. And after a period of time, they would see these other guys are starting to run more hours in the shop. And they're like, well, why is he running more hours? Well, he's making, 1.2 hours more per repair order than you are because he's doing videos. Oh. And so that resistance, slowly goes away because they see they can shoot a video, they can shoot a 45-second to a minute and 15-second video, and the rewards they get from it financially are huge. You just have to be honest up front and you have to show them. we're going to bump our head and skin our knees. We know we are, but we're going to get through this, and, we'll come out the other side, and everybody's going to be for the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you think about it too, when you kind of boil it down, and you've probably experienced this, or maybe you can correct me if you haven't, but, you spend that time shooting a video, and your approval coming back from the customer, at least what we've seen, is faster, right? When you can send them a link to a video and a link to approve it, they see the video, they hit approve, and we move on. You're getting that in, a matter of minutes, rather than a voicemail and then another voicemail and then another voicemail, and then it's 4:00 and they're wondering if they're going to have their car by 5, right? Instead, you take a video, you send them the video, you get approval back in, again, minutes. The vehicle's still up on the lift, right? You didn't have any really dead time, because, you had to do a couple of things anyway. You don't have to bring it down. You don't have to take it back up. You're not moving cars in and out. So it's just a much more efficient process and a more efficient way to get those hours through the shop. And it's, yes, the hours per RO matter, right? And it's important, but I think a part of that is because of the time saved, because you could do, if you do, and I'll just keep the math really simple, right? If you do 1 hour per RO, or if you do 2 hours per RO, you can still technically get the same amount of hours through in a day. You just have to double the volume. But when you factor in the amount of time, just minutes on minutes on minutes that add up over the course of the day, moving 12 cars in and out of a lift or in and out of a bay, that really does add up and take a lot of time. So having more work on one car really allows you to bill those hours rather than just having those hours be dead in that bay. Does that all make sense?
Oh, yeah. So what we did is, the way Monogram works is, when that car first comes in that technician's stall, is the multi-point inspection is performed. The technician does the video for the multi-point inspection. The way we set it up is there's a 10-minute delay. The technician is sending the video directly to the customer. So there's a 10-minute delay. So what happens is, now that advisor, instead of him saying, oh, you know what, pull the car outside, I'll call the customer when I get a chance. I got stuff stacked up here. So exactly what you said. Now there's this sense of urgency. So, being a tech at one point, I remember pulling cars in, well, they're going to have to call me back, or, I'm going to have to get a hold of them. I can't get a hold of them. You'd pull the car outside, and then they'd get approval, and you may be working on a big job, and the advisor's like, well, I need this one done. I told them it'd be ready today. So now it's a fire drill, right? To try and get it done. So exactly what you said is, this has increased production for the technicians because they're not pulling the cars in and out as much. It's increased the cycle time for the guests, because now the car's getting done quicker because we're getting approval quicker. So overall, again, it's the guest experience. You're just elevating that guest experience.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So what has your experience been, whether it's Toyota, Lexus, or any of the other manufacturers you've worked with? Where do these programs add value for the dealer? And what are some ways maybe that, because it seems like, and especially listening to you speak about it, Monogram by your account and most accounts has been pretty successful, right? Toyota and Lexus have done a good job. So maybe what are some takeaways that other, even just manufacturers, can look at, some key pillars that they've done well that have led to the success of this program? Because there are some where there's just some friction, right, between the dealer and the manufacturer. It's like, I don't want to do that. But this one doesn't seem to have much of that. So are there any things that stand out to you that maybe other manufacturers could model after when they're looking at their programs?
So I think, there's several facets of let's call it the Monogram process, or the Smart Path process, and what the manufacturer has taken, and, they've laid out this map for dealers. So number one, a dealer only has one vendor now. So if you're a Reynolds dealer, guess what? You're dealing directly with Reynolds. You don't have a third party to take videos. You don't have a third party to text. You don't have a third party to accept payment online. It's all inclusive. Okay. So the other thing is, if it's a dealer that's not doing it, I think the benefit is to show them the increase in CPROs, the increase in CP hours, the increase in CP parts and labor per repair order, because it more than pays for itself. Not to mention the transparency that you're offering with the guest, the experience you're giving the guest, and they keep coming back. I mean, when you start looking at your 7-year UIO and your retention, I can promise you, you will see your retention start to increase within the first year just by doing a program like this. Now, Audi several years ago started putting on their customer survey, did you receive a video or not? Were you given a copy of your MPI? So they've taken it a next step where now it's part of their survey program. So they're asking that question to the guest. Cadillac, they're looking at the multi-point inspections being done. They're looking at the additional sales based off of MPIs, but they really haven't come up with a program like Lexus and Toyota has. I think Lexus and Toyota is way ahead of the curve with this, because I feel like this is just going to be the way dealers are going to have to do business for the future. We have started doing so many valets, talking about COVID. 7 years ago, we started doing valets, but as of COVID, we sort of got into this deal where we're doing valets, and we'll go all over the state. Well, now we're able to do a video active delivery. The advisor is the customer seeing a video of their vehicle while it's in the shop, so they know it's made it to the shop. They know it's in there. And then we're able to offer them an online payment option where they can just pay online. They're going to get a copy of their invoice. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we have created a customer experience where, do you realize that customer never has to step foot in the dealership?
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. And who would have thought, especially in the service department, right, where somebody has to work on the car, right? Like you're going to have to turn a wrench on a vehicle. So you're going to have people in the store. You're going to have a physical facility. But you're right. The customer doesn't have to be there. And that blended experience where the customer is wherever they need to be, at home, at work, running errands, and the technician's in the shop working on the vehicle, and you can still communicate effectively. And there's so many different ways to do it, but that blended model, it really does create so many efficiencies on both sides, right? For the dealership and for the consumer.
Yeah. And it's, they can go online, they can find a car, they can purchase a car, new or used, do the paperwork online, never have to come into the store. They're going to deliver their new or used car to them. Then they can do valet service to service their vehicle. So even for the sales and service experience, they don't even have to step foot in the dealership. That's a direct result of COVID. We created that during COVID so that we didn't have to have that face-to-face with the customer and still try and sell vehicles and service vehicles. But when you look at the cars that the manufacturers are building now, just across the board, and you look at the price point, we're attracting, especially with the luxury car brands, we're attracting more and more millennials. And you know what? They don't want to talk to you on the phone. They want to text you. They don't want to come into the dealership. Time is the most important thing there is to them. So we've got to learn how do we make it timeless for them to be able to service their vehicle in the dealership.
Yeah, make it timeless. But I would also I would layer in there, which it sounds like you're doing a great job of, and I would imagine intentionally, but people still want, I believe anyway, people still want a connection. People still want trust. They still want to feel like they have this connection with whoever they're doing business with, right? They want to trust the technician. They want to trust the advisor, or even on the sales side, right? They want to trust the F&I manager. So you're talking about video, and video is such an effective way to really develop that relationship without necessarily having somebody sitting belly to belly with you. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I do feel like it's that balancing act, because yes, you want to create an experience that gives them as much time back as possible, but as the retailer, that relationship is what's going to pull them back in time and time again. So trying to figure out ways to balance those two things, I mean, it can be difficult.
So here's what we've done. So years ago, we came up with a thank you card that the technicians started putting in customers' vehicles, just thanking them for their business, thanking them for the opportunity to work on their vehicle, had a picture of the technician and had his name on there. So now we've taken it the next step, so what I did is I created a baseball card for each technician. So there's a picture of the technician holding their favorite tool on the front of the baseball card. When you flip it over, it's got stats for them, their hometown, what their hobbies are, what they like to do. And then at the bottom, again, it's thanking the guests for their business. So now we're forming that relationship with the guest, because now when we valet that car, that guest gets in their car, guess what? They're looking at a baseball card of this technician. Yeah. So actually had a customer call me, it's been a month ago or so, and he told me, he said, y'all have valeted my car 3 times now, and all 3 times I'm getting the same baseball card back from the same technician. Not that I don't want him to work on it, but I would like to start collecting some more of it. So, and then we've got the service advisor doing the active delivery, going over the repair order with the guest. So again, we're building the relationship with that service advisor. So to answer your question, we still have to have that trust. We still have to have that relationship. We've had to try and figure out, how do we do that with a touchless service experience? Sure.
No, that's great. That's great. So did you create a baseball card for yourself?
No.
Okay. What would your tool be if you're on the card? What's your tool?
I try and fly under the radar. I don't even know what my tool would be anymore. Probably a torque wrench.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Just thinking about the picture, I think it's either got to be just an impact gun, right? Because that's a cool picture, or the biggest torque wrench I can find and kind of set it over my shoulder like it's a bat. I think that's probably what I'd go with.
Yeah, if you were to ask the techs in the shop, they would say a torque wrench, because I'm always harping on them about torquing the wheels after they get done rotating and stuff. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, Richard, this has been a really fun conversation. I appreciate you taking so much time. I do want to be respectful of your time, though. So, before we hop off, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to? Anything that I didn't ask you about that I should have?
I don't think so. I think the biggest point to make is, it's hard to find experienced technicians now. So we have to remember that we have to grow our own. And the only way we're going to be able to grow our own is to get involved. And as a dealer, you've got to get involved with your local programs, whatever they are, whether they're on a high school level or a 2-year associate's level. You've got to get involved. You can't just sit in there and expect them to come to you, because they're not going to.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, a great summation from earlier. So, Richard Greene, I really do appreciate you joining me. This has been a fun conversation, and hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime soon.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. What a great conversation for episode 150. Really appreciate Richard Greene coming on and talking through what he's doing to recruit and retain technicians. Obviously an issue that everybody struggles with from time to time. Before we hop off, don't forget you can watch or listen to all episodes of Connected on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And make sure to hit subscribe so you're notified every other week when new episodes are released. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.